She doesn't miss you because she doesn't need to. She doesn't crave you because you gave her no reason to crave. You handed her comfort on a silver platter, and comfort never creates desire. Think about it. When was the last time she had to wonder about you? When was the last time she had to question if you were slipping away? The truth is she hasn't, and that's why you're in this situation. You gave her your attention, like an overflowing faucet, pouring and pouring, thinking the more you gave, the more she'd want. But that's not how human nature works. We chase what we fear losing. We value what's rare, not what's everywhere. And right now, you're not rare. You're predictable. You're available. You're replaceable. The mistake most men make is believing that love is about proving something. You think the more you show her, the more she'll realize your worth. You think the more you reassure, the safer she'll feel, and then she'll stay. But love doesn't live in safety. It thrives in tension. Attraction doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in the unknown. She doesn't long for you because she doesn't need to. She knows exactly where you stand. She knows that no matter what, you'll be waiting. She knows you'll take her back at the snap of a finger. And nothing kills attraction faster than certainty. It hurts, doesn't it, to realize that your devotion is the very thing that suffocates her desire. But pain is clarity, and clarity is power. The brutal truth is this: if she knows you'll always be there, she doesn't need to value you. And if she doesn't value you, she can walk away without hesitation. That's why the harder you chase, the further she runs. That's why every call, every text, every desperate attempt to fix things pushes her further into silence. She doesn't hear your love in those actions. She hears your desperation, and desperation is repellent. You need to understand this. At the core of your being, she will not return to a man who has no spine. She will not come back to someone who makes her his entire world while he forgets his own. If you want her to come back, stop trying to drag her closer. Let her go. Let her see what life feels like without you at her fingertips. Let her face the silence where there used to be constant noise. That's when she starts to notice the gap. That's when her mind begins to wander. That's when curiosity awakens. The greatest pull you can create is not through words or promises, but through absence combined with strength. She must feel what it's like to lose your energy, your presence, your influence. She must sense the difference when you're no longer pouring yourself into her without limit. And when she feels that shift, she will begin to wonder if she made the biggest mistake of her life. That wondering, that doubt, that uncertainty, that's the seed of desire. That's what makes her miss you. That's what brings her back. But here's the catch. You can't fake this. You can't play games and pretend to walk away while secretly waiting for her to notice. You can't half-step your growth and expect her to fall at your feet. She will know if it's real. And the only way to make it real is to actually let go, actually evolve, and actually become the man she can't stay away from. Not because you want her to come back, but because you refuse to remain the man she walked away from in the first place. The truth is simple. She doesn't come back to neediness. She doesn't return to weakness. She comes back to strength. She comes back to mystery. She comes back to the man who commands respect without asking for it. If you want her to feel drawn to you again, you must stop proving, stop chasing, and stop begging. You must rebuild yourself until she has no choice but to wonder why she ever thought she could live without you. That's when the shift happens. That's when the power swings. And that's when her pride battles with her longing until she finally gives in. Not because you pulled her closer, but because you created a space so powerful she couldn't stay away. She doesn't miss you because she doesn't need to. She doesn't crave you because you've given her no reason to crave. That stings, doesn't it? But it's the truth you need to face head on. You made yourself too predictable, too accessible, too easy. The human mind is wired to desire what it fears losing, to chase what feels uncertain, to value what feels rare. And right now, you're none of those things. You're a man who gave away his time, his energy, and his attention without her ever having to earn it. That's why she could walk away so easily, because she knew you'd be standing right where she left you. You told yourself that love meant proving your worth. You told yourself that if you gave enough, if you showed her enough, if you never let her doubt your devotion, she'd never leave. But that belief has cost you everything. Love isn't built on constant reassurance. Attraction doesn't grow from being smothered. Desire doesn't thrive on certainty. It lives in the unknown. It breathes in the tension of not knowing what tomorrow brings. You robbed her of that tension. You suffocated the spark with your predictability. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but here's the raw truth. She knows exactly where she stands with you. And that's the problem. She knows you'll pick up every call. She knows you'll answer every text. She knows that no matter what she does, you'll be there. There's no fear of losing you, no urgency to keep you, no challenge to overcome, and nothing kills attraction faster than certainty. You thought your devotion would make her feel secure, but all it did was make you invisible in her eyes. She didn't see a man she had to hold on to. She saw a man who would hold on no matter what. And here's what you need to hear. The harder you chase, the further she'll run. The more you beg, the more she'll pull away. Every desperate attempt to hold her close doesn't come across as love. It comes across as weakness. She doesn't see your persistence as loyalty. She sees it as a lack of options. And no woman desires a man who has no options. The very energy you're pouring into her is the reason she feels nothing pulling her back. If you want her to come back, you don't drag her closer, you let her go. You stop chasing, stop pleading, stop proving. You make her face the silence that rushes in when your voice is no longer there. You make her feel the absence of your presence. And in that silence, in that emptiness, her mind begins to wander. She starts to notice the difference. She starts to wonder why you're no longer at her feet. She starts to doubt her decision. That's when curiosity is born. That's when desire reignites. But don't mistake this for a tactic or a game. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to walk away while secretly waiting for her to notice. She will know. Women can sense desperation even when it hides under a mask. The only way this works is if it's real. That means letting go completely. That means pouring the energy you once wasted on her into yourself. That means becoming a man who doesn't need her return, but whose growth makes her regret leaving. Because here's the harsh truth. She will never come back to a man who lacks a spine. She will never be drawn to the version of you who lives to please her. She will never chase the man who never changes. She only comes back when she sees something new, something stronger, something untouchable, something she can't easily grasp. She only comes back when you become the man she can't ignore, the man whose absence is louder than his presence ever was. This is the shift you need. Stop thinking about how to get her back. Stop obsessing over when she'll return. That's weakness talking. Instead, focus on becoming unrecognizable from the man she left behind. Build yourself so strong, so disciplined, so focused that her only thought is why she ever thought she could walk away. And when that moment comes, when the silence eats at her and your strength blinds her, she won't be able to resist the pull. Not because you begged for her, not because you proved yourself, but because you became the man she can't stay away from. That's the truth you've been avoiding. That's the key you've been missing. She doesn't come back to the man who chases. She comes back to the man who doesn't need her, yet becomes the one she can't forget. Here's the brutal truth you don't want to admit right now. She knows exactly where she stands with you, and that single fact is the reason she feels nothing pulling her back. Certainty is the death of attraction. The moment someone knows they can have you whenever they want, they stop valuing you, and that's the trap you've fallen into. You made yourself too easy to read, too predictable, too guaranteed. She doesn't feel any urgency because deep down she knows, no matter how long she stays away, no matter what she does, you'll be right there, waiting like a safety net. Think about that for a second. The energy you believe is loyalty, she interprets as weakness. The devotion you believe is proof of your love, she sees as a lack of self-respect. And every time you make it clear that you'll never walk away, you give her less reason to come back. Nothing in her mind says she's losing something valuable. Nothing tells her she's at risk of regret. Instead, she feels comfortable, too comfortable, and comfort is poison to desire. The harsh reality is this. People value what they fear losing. People treasure what is rare. People fight for what they're not sure they can have. But when you've made yourself a certainty, you strip yourself of all power. You've trained her to believe that no matter how far she goes, no matter how badly she treats you, no matter what choices she makes, she can come back and you'll still be standing there with open arms. And in her mind, that makes you ordinary. That makes you forgettable. That makes you replaceable. You can't afford to keep living this way, because the truth is, as long as she knows you're still waiting, she has no reason to miss you. As long as she feels no risk of losing you, she has no reason to chase you. She can take her time, explore other options, and live her life without a single thought of you slipping away. That's why your texts go unanswered. That's why your calls don't come back. That's why she's not rushing to reconnect. You've made yourself an option she never has to fight for. The more you give without boundaries, the less she feels. The more you show up without question, the more invisible you become. You think consistency is the answer, but consistency without value is just noise. She doesn't want a man who's endlessly available. She wants a man whose presence means something because it's not guaranteed. And that's where you failed. You gave her presence on demand, and in doing so, you erased all sense of value. If you want her to feel pulled back, she has to taste uncertainty. She has to feel consequences. She has to experience what it's like when you're not there, when you don't respond, when you don't bend, when you don't wait. That's when the questions start filling her head. That's when the doubt creeps in. That's when she replays moments and wonders if she underestimated you. But here's the catch. You can't do this as a trick. You can't cut off contact for a week and then crawl back hoping she noticed. You can't play games because games are rooted in weakness, and weakness is exactly what got you here in the first place. This isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about actually being strong. It's about living in a way where she no longer has certainty because you've genuinely shifted into someone who doesn't wait around. The man she left behind is predictable. He's certain. He's weak. But the man she can't stay away from is the opposite. He's unpredictable. He's focused. He's a man she can't fully figure out, a man who doesn't bend to her every move, a man who respects himself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't value him. That's the man she regrets leaving. That's the man she replays in her mind at night. That's the man who makes her wonder if she made the biggest mistake of her life. So stop giving her certainty. Stop being her safety net. Stop teaching her that no matter what, you'll be there. If you want her to miss you, she has to fear losing you. And if you want her to come back, she has to believe you might not be there when she does. That shift, that uncertainty, that doubt, that's what sparks attraction again. That's what makes her restless. That's what pulls her back into your orbit. Remember this, she doesn't long for what's guaranteed. She longs for what she's not sure she can have. She doesn't crave what's certain. She craves what feels rare. And until you embody that truth, she'll never feel the urge to return. Stop being predictable. Stop being the man who bends at every crack in the road. Every time you give in, every time you fold, every time you rush to accommodate, you confirm her belief that she has total control over you. And nothing destroys attraction faster than control. A woman doesn't desire the man she dominates. She desires the man she respects. But respect is earned by strength, by boundaries, by an unshakable presence that refuses to bend under pressure. Right now, you've built an identity around being available, around proving yourself, around making sure she never doubts your loyalty. And that identity is what killed her attraction. You didn't lose her because you weren't enough. You lost her because you gave too much of yourself without asking for anything in return. Power doesn't beg. Strength doesn't plead. Think about the men who command attention in every room. Do they have to prove themselves? Do they have to remind others of their worth? No. Their presence alone is the proof. They don't try to be chosen. They create an aura where being with them feels like a privilege. That's the energy you've been missing. Instead of building a life that pulls her back, you've been orbiting around hers, waiting for scraps of validation. And here's the ugly truth. The more you orbit her, the smaller you become in her eyes. She can't look up to a man who looks up to her. The shift happens when you reclaim your own life, when you stop bending to every demand, when you stop waiting by the phone, when you stop apologizing for existing. You don't get her attention by begging for it. You get it by creating a reality so strong, so full, so focused that she can't ignore it. She left because you were too easy to reach, too predictable to wonder about, too accessible to value. She will come back when you're no longer that man, when you're building, when you're focused, when you're living with purpose so loudly that your absence screams louder than your presence ever did. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about pretending to be busy or putting on a mask of indifference. That's surface level nonsense, and she'll see through it immediately. This is about genuinely leveling up. It's about shifting your energy inward, building yourself into someone so unshakable that her opinion no longer defines you. Because here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing her validation is the moment she feels the pull to give it. The moment you stop chasing is the moment she begins to notice your distance. The moment you rise without her is the moment she feels the weight of regret. But understand this clearly. If you try to do this for her, it won't work. She'll sense the motive. She'll know you're still orbiting her. You must do this for yourself. You must reach a place where her return is a bonus, not the mission. Where her attention is welcomed, not begged for, where her presence in your life is earned, not expected. That's the difference between a man she leaves behind and a man she can't stay away from. She has to feel the fear of losing you. She has to experience the shift in dynamic where suddenly you're not bending to her will, you're not waiting at her feet, you're not proving your worth over and over again. She has to see a man who can stand tall without her, a man whose value is undeniable because it comes from within, not from her approval. That's when curiosity takes over. That's when she begins to think, what changed? What did I miss? Why do I feel like I don't know him anymore? And that's the exact moment attraction reignites. The man who bends will always break. The man who chases will always be ignored. But the man who builds himself into something greater, he's the one she can't forget. He's the one she replays in her mind. He's the one she silently compares to every other man she meets. And eventually, he's the one she feels compelled to return to. Not because he begged, not because he convinced her, but because his strength became undeniable. So stop being predictable. Stop living for her approval. Stop folding under pressure. Build a life so magnetic that her only choice is to notice the man you've become. Don't try to convince her you've changed. Become so transformed that she feels it in every fiber of her being. That's how you stop being the man she left behind. That's how you become the man she comes back to. Here's what she won't admit: the moment she sees you rising without her, the moment she sees you locked in, focused, disciplined, and untouchable, that's when her curiosity ignites. Right now, she feels no urgency, no risk, no fear of losing you because you've been standing still, orbiting her world, waiting for scraps of attention. But the second you start moving forward with power, everything shifts. Second she notices you are no longer sitting in the same place she left you, a part of her begins to panic. That's when the thoughts start creeping into her mind. That's when regret slips in like poison. That's when she replays every memory, every mistake, every moment she thought she had you forever, and realizes she might have thrown away the very thing she can't replace. Women don't crave men who stay stuck in the same patterns. They crave men who evolve. They crave the man who transforms pain into fuel, who doesn't sit in the ashes of what happened, but rises out of them stronger than before. And the brutal truth is this: she didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because she thought you would always be the same. Predictable, constant, safe. But safe isn't attractive. Safe is boring. Safe doesn't spark longing. What pulls her back is the man who surprises her. The man she thought she knew but now can't quite figure out. The man who makes her stop and think, what happened to him? How did he change? And why does it bother me that he doesn't seem to need me anymore? That's when the tables turn. When she sees you laughing without her. When she hears about your wins. When she notices the shift in your energy, the discipline in your presence, the confidence in your eyes. She can't help but compare it to the version of you she left behind. And in that comparison, regret grows. She realizes that while she was expecting you to wait, you were busy creating. While she assumed you'd chase, you were building. While she thought you'd crumble, you were rising. That contrast hits harder than any words you could ever say. Here's the truth most men never understand. You don't make her miss you with words, with promises, or with pleas. You make her miss you with transformation. She has to see with her own eyes that you've become something she no longer has easy access to. She has to feel the shift in your energy. She has to sense that the version of you she thought she had control over is gone forever. And when she sees that, her mind won't let her rest. She'll replay conversations, she'll scroll through old photos, she'll ask herself if she miscalculated. And the more she sees you rising, the more she feels herself sinking into regret. But let's be clear, this isn't about faking it. You can't post pictures pretending you're thriving while secretly hoping she notices. You can't buy temporary distractions and call it growth. She'll see through that instantly. Real growth can't be faked. Real transformation radiates. It's in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself without a trace of desperation. It's in the quiet confidence of a man who no longer seeks validation because he's too busy validating himself. That's what makes her stop in her tracks. That's what makes her realize she underestimated you. She may never say it out loud, but she will feel it. The sting of regret, the pull of curiosity, the unsettling realization that the man she thought she could always come back to is now beyond her reach. That's when she replays every decision that led her here. That's when she starts to feel the weight of her own choices. That's when the silence between you transforms from comfort into torment. So stop thinking about how to convince her. Stop trying to craft the perfect words or the perfect apology. Words don't pull her back. Your evolution does. She doesn't care what you promise. She cares about what she sees. She doesn't long for what you tell her. She longs for what she feels slipping through her fingers. And if you truly want her to come back, you must become the man who forces her to question everything she thought she knew. Remember this, she will only regret leaving when the man she left behind no longer exists. She will only crave your presence when your absence feels heavier than your neediness ever did. She will only come back when you've risen so high that she fears she can no longer reach you. That's the paradox. The less you need her, the more she feels drawn to you. The more you grow without her, the more she feels the pull to return. And when she finally realizes that you're no longer the man who begged, but the man she can't replace, that's when she comes back. But let me warn you, this only works if you're real about it. You can't fake growth. You can't slap on a mask of success, flash some false confidence, or pretend to be unbothered while still checking your phone every 5 minutes for her name to pop up. She will sense the truth before you even open your mouth. Women are wired to pick up on energy. They feel it in your tone, in your eyes, in the way you carry yourself. You can say all the right words, but if the core of you is still desperate, still waiting, still clinging, she'll see right through it. And the second she sees it, you're finished. That's why this shift can't be about her. It has to be about you. You can't rebuild yourself with the secret hope that she'll notice, because if that's your motive, you haven't really changed. You're still orbiting her, just in disguise. You're still basing your identity on her approval, still defining your value by whether she comes back. That's not growth. That's performance. And performance crumbles under pressure. Real strength, real change, real evolution, those things don't need an audience. They don't need applause. They don't need her validation. They exist because you refuse to stay broken. They exist because you decided that the man she walked away from is gone forever, and in his place stands someone she could never ignore. Understand this. Desperation leaks through every crack in your behavior. It shows when you try too hard. It shows when you force it. It shows when you post your life online hoping she'll see, when you exaggerate your progress, when you drop hints just to get her attention. That's not power. That's weakness dressed up as strength. And weakness will never pull her back. What does pull her back is when you're too focused on yourself to even care if she's watching. When your discipline is so consistent, your focus so relentless, your life so full that her presence or her absence doesn't determine your direction. That's when she feels the shift. That's when she realizes you're no longer accessible in the way you once were. And here's the part most men can't handle. The moment you truly stop caring whether she comes back is the moment she's most likely to return. Why? Because energy doesn't lie. When you're free, when you're not performing, when you're genuinely building yourself without attachment to her reaction, she feels the difference. She feels the weight of your absence. She feels the curiosity burning in her chest, wondering what changed, why you're different, why you're no longer pulled toward her like a magnet. That shift unsettles her. That's when her pride begins to crack. That's when her mind replays the question she doesn't want to face. Did I make a mistake? But let's be clear. If you're still living for her return, if every move you make is secretly about her, then nothing has changed. You're still trapped. You're still dependent. You're still powerless. And powerless men don't attract. They repel. Power comes when you reclaim your life, when you redirect your focus to your mission, your discipline, your health, your success. Power comes when you no longer wait for someone else to validate your existence. And when you step into that energy, she can't help but notice. She doesn't respect a man who grovels. She doesn't miss the man who never left. She doesn't chase the man who never moves. But she can't ignore the man who evolves. She can't shake the thought of the man who transformed pain into strength, silence into discipline, rejection into fuel. That man doesn't need her, but he's the man she now wants. So stop trying to play a game. Stop pretending you've moved on when you haven't. Stop forcing an image of strength while secretly drowning in weakness. That illusion will collapse, and when it does, you'll be worse off than before. Instead, be ruthless with yourself. Face the parts of you that begged, that pleaded, that depended. Kill them, replace them with discipline, replace them with purpose. Replace them with strength so undeniable it radiates without a word. This isn't about her, it never was. This is about becoming a man who doesn't beg for love, who doesn't cling for validation, who doesn't crumble when left alone. This is about becoming a man whose value is carved in stone, unshaken by anyone's decision to stay or leave. And when you become that man, she'll feel the gravity of your presence even in your absence. That's when she comes back. Not because you asked, but because you became impossible to stay away from. Stop asking if she'll come back. That very question exposes your weakness. Every time you wonder, every time you ask yourself, will she miss me? Will she return? You are putting her in the position of power. You are admitting that her choices define your future, that your worth hinges on her decision. And the truth is brutal. As long as you're asking whether she'll return, she has no reason to. Why would she? You've already shown her that you're waiting. You've already admitted that you'll accept her back without conditions. There's no urgency, no risk, no pressure. She has the luxury of time because you've placed yourself on hold. The better question isn't, will she come back? The better question is, will I rise so high that she has no place in the new version of my life unless she earns it? That's the mindset shift you've been avoiding. Instead of sitting around wondering about her, start creating a reality where she isn't the focus. Flip the script completely. Right now, you're living as if your worth depends on her approval. That's why you feel weak. That's why you're stuck. But when you make the shift, when you decide that your mission, your discipline, your purpose come first, everything changes. Suddenly, she's no longer the sun you orbit. Suddenly, she becomes the one wondering if she can still orbit you. You don't attract by waiting, you attract by moving. You don't inspire longing by chasing. You inspire longing by building. When you're stagnant, when you're stuck in the same patterns, she sees the man she walked away from. But when you rise, when you evolve, when you become unrecognizable in your strength, your focus, your discipline, that's when she can't look away. That's when the regret creeps in. That's when the doubts torment her, because now she's not sure if she can still have you. And uncertainty is the root of desire. But here's the harsh reality. You will never reach this place if you're still asking whether she'll come back. Because that question means you're waiting. It means you're holding back your own growth, your own evolution, because secretly you're saving space for her return. And that's why nothing changes. As long as you're waiting, you're weak, and weakness will never draw her back. You need to burn the waiting mindset to the ground, replace it with creation, replace it with discipline, replace it with a vision so big that her return isn't the center of it. It's just a detail. Build yourself into the kind of man whose life is full, whose energy is magnetic, whose presence is undeniable. Become the man who doesn't pause his progress for anyone because he knows that his value isn't up for negotiation. When you flip the script, the energy shifts. Instead of you wondering if she'll come back, she'll be the one wondering if she can. Instead of you asking if she'll miss you, she'll be the one asking if you even notice her absence. That's the power of self-respect. That's the power of detachment. That's the power of becoming the kind of man who never waits, but always builds. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop waiting is the moment she feels the pull. The moment you stop caring if she comes back is the moment she begins to wonder. The moment you rise so far beyond the man she left behind is the moment she realizes she may no longer be able to reach you. And that fear, that uncertainty, that regret, that's what makes her want to return. So stop asking the wrong question. Stop living in weakness. Stop obsessing over her decision. Start asking yourself, am I building a life so powerful, so focused, so full of purpose that she'd have to fight to be part of it? Because if the answer is no, then nothing will change. But if the answer is yes, if you're building relentlessly, if you're evolving daily, if you're becoming unrecognizable in your strength, then the question of whether she comes back becomes irrelevant. Because at that point, it doesn't matter. At that point, you've already won. Remember this. Distance alone doesn't make her miss you. Silence doesn't automatically create longing. She won't suddenly feel drawn back to you just because you've stopped calling or texting. That's the trap too many men fall into. They think pulling away is enough, as if absence alone creates attraction. But here's the truth. If you remain the same man she walked away from, silence only makes it easier for her to forget you. What actually makes her miss you is not the distance. It's your evolution during that distance. It's the transformation she can't ignore. It's when the man she thought she left behind no longer exists, when the version of you she remembers is replaced with someone stronger, sharper, and more focused, her curiosity begins to burn. She thought she knew you. She thought she had you figured out. She thought you'd stay the same. But then she sees something different. She notices your energy shift. She hears about your growth. She sees with her own eyes that you're not standing still. And that's when the pull begins, not because you disappeared, but because you disappeared and returned unrecognizable. The man who becomes unshakable in his discipline, who commands respect without trying, who radiates quiet confidence, he's the man she feels magnetically drawn to, because deep down she knows that kind of man isn't easily replaceable. That kind of man isn't begging for love, isn't desperate for attention, isn't clinging to anyone for validation. That kind of man is rare, and people chase rarity. People crave what they don't see often. People regret losing what they can't easily find again. That's exactly why evolution, not silence alone, is the trigger for her return. Think about it. If you disappear but come back the same, what changes? Nothing. She sees you as the man she left, and she'll feel no reason to regret her choice. But if you disappear and come back with new strength, new focus, new purpose, she's forced to confront a painful reality. You no longer need her, but suddenly she needs you. That imbalance of power is what flips the dynamic. That shift is what draws her back into your orbit. And let me be brutally honest, she won't tell you this. She won't admit that seeing you rise unsettles her. She won't confess that your new presence makes her doubt herself. Instead, she'll act curious. She'll test the waters. She'll try to figure out if what she sees is real. Because in her mind, she has to protect her pride. But behind that mask, she's thinking about you more than she ever did when you were begging. She's replaying the past, comparing it to the present, and realizing that the man she thought she could replace has now become the man she can't forget. But this only happens if you're real about it. You can't fake discipline. You can't fake confidence. You can't fake evolution. She'll see through it if you're posting pictures for her attention, if you're trying too hard to prove you've moved on, if you're still secretly orbiting her world. That's not strength. That's performance. And performance always collapses under pressure. Real growth, real focus, real transformation. It doesn't scream, it speaks for itself. It shows in the way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the way you're no longer searching for her approval. That's what she feels. That's what pulls her in. The man she left behind is gone. In his place stands someone unshakable, untouchable, disciplined, and free. That's the man she starts to miss. That's the man she starts to regret losing. That's the man she feels pulled toward even when her pride tells her not to. Because now the absence isn't empty, it's heavy, it's haunting, it's filled with the image of a man she once knew, transformed into someone she can't stop thinking about. So don't fool yourself into thinking silence alone will do the job. Silence without growth is just emptiness. But silence with transformation is magnetic. When the man she left behind becomes unrecognizable in his strength, his focus, his discipline, then, and only then, will she feel the irresistible pull back into your orbit. Not because you begged, not because you played games, but because you became the man she can't stay away from.